Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, I am Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And today, old Cindy is a little bit poo-pooed. I was outside today. I took my bike out and I've had my bike for a couple of months now, but I've only taken it out, I think, for 3 or 4 bike rides. Today was the longest bike ride. I rode my bike to my sister's place and we had a little visit. And then I walked to the coffee shop, got us some coffees. Then I got back on my bike and I went to the grocery store. And then I got on my bike and I came home. And then when I came home, I wasn't done quite yet. I went for a walk to the grocery store to pick up a few necessities, or maybe not necessities. There was a sale on the Diet Sprite for 99 cents for a big 2 liter. So I wanted to get a couple of those because I've been really enjoying my Welch's grapefruit juice mixed with the Sprite, right? And so I've really just been enjoying it. And I guess I was a little bit dehydrated, so it was kind of on the mind. And sometimes when we are compulsed that way, we should, cater to ourselves, never deny ourselves, right? Because, life is happening while we're making other plans. And lots of times, especially when you're on that movement forward kick, right? That we can become a little bit compulsive. We can be a little bit strict with ourselves. And I never want to be that person that is constantly shutting me down, right? That's saying no to myself, that's denying myself, make myself feel like I'm punishing myself. When in all actuality, it is protecting myself, it's caring for myself, and it's looking out for myself. But I don't think that I always look at it that way. Sometimes I feel that I do, keep myself a little bit strict. I like to enjoy my life. I've always been one to search out things that make my life enjoyable, make my life worth living, sorry. And how I used to say, make being bored fun, right? And it's really important to give ourselves that permission to enjoy our existence. That word, existence. This is our existence. This is the one life that Cindy is going to get to have, right? Just this one life. In that preparation, I hope going down the line, that I will have picked up lessons. And one of those most important lessons, I do believe, is a lesson that actually belonged to my father. Life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. Remember what I said last night? I don't want to be 80 years old, sitting in my rocking chair, looking back at my life and thinking about all the no's that I gave myself, right? We do have to apply ourselves when we have goals and we have dreams because nobody's going to accomplish those goals and dreams for us. And I don't think necessarily we want our goals and dreams handed to us because when things are handed to us, we become expectant of it. It's like the babies being born today and going, where's my iPhone? Where's my Pixel 99? Right? That we can work for our things and build that sense of pride in our accomplishment. It's really important. I take a great amount of satisfaction out of accomplishing. You guys have heard me say it many, many times how happy it does make me feel when I do accomplish things, because I used to be that giver upper. I used to be that person who would say no, don't even try. You don't deserve it. You're not smart enough. You're not good looking enough. You're not skinny enough, right? You're not physically fit. And I would come up with these excuses. And in these excuses, I would allow myself to sit on my haunches, right? And then just sit and wait for what little bit of scraps gets thrown across the table at me, and then have to be grateful in that. If nothing else, hello, Tammy. It's really, really, really good. It's really good, Tammy. And look how refreshing it looks with all that frosty stuff and my ice cubes. And the grape juice is a little bit sweet and thick to start with, and you don't lose any flavor at all. You know, I'm one for really good ideas, and I actually thought this afternoon, I went, "Oh my goodness, if Sprite, which belongs to the Coke company, right? Sprite belongs to the Coke and 7 Up to Pepsi. I think that's the way that it goes. But if they had a Welch's Sprite, I bet you it would be a huge, huge seller, right? They actually come out with new flavors of sodas all the time. I know people say, oh, you shouldn't drink the soda, it's not good for you. It was the way that I was brought up. It's, part of my tradition. And when I say, not to say no to myself, if I want to have this, I'm going to have it. I'm not going to make it a lifestyle choice, maybe because it tastes really good, this grape juice and the diet Sprite. But I could be drinking something full of calories. And actually, grape juice is an antioxidant, right? So, grape juice is actually quite good for you. Any fruit or vegetable that is high in purple is really, really good for you. Or blues, like blueberries, right? Very good for you. So I'm not going to say it's a health drink, but it's much healthier than, say, have a bottle of Coke, or to have some juice crystals, or, right, a, even a bottle of orange juice. Can you imagine how many calories in a bottle of orange juice? Let me have a sip. Doesn't that sound nice and cool and tasty? Yeah. And I'm trying to take lots of fluids in. I thought I took a lot of fluids. I drank a couple of bottles of water yesterday, lots of juice, lots of different fluids all day, all night. And I walked home from downtown. It was really hot, and I think that's probably it. It was the heat that dehydrated me. And I woke up last night with a Charlie horse. I haven't had a Charlie horse in a very long time. I think this was my first real Charlie horse. Oh my goodness, maybe this year. I used to suffer with them every night, the Charlie horses, right? It, for me, it is in the dehydration, in not taking in enough fluids, that I end up with these Charlie horses. Especially when I was working, I was always going 100 miles an hour, whatever I was doing, because there was so much that needed to get done, right? And I am that person that overextends themselves in a good way, because I enjoy what I'm doing. It's okay to put that effort and that work in, right? If it's something that you enjoy. But I do notice that my life has changed a lot. And all those changes have been through my own choice. They have been. And I sat today and I actually looked at what's going on. I'm saying, Cindy, I think you're denying yourself that joy for life, because life really is what happens while we're making other plans, setting those goals, having those dreams, right? And this was something my dad lived by. He lived his life like every day was his last day. Of course, when you do it like that, you're not really chasing your dreams. You're not really setting goals and moving towards them. You're living in the moment. You're living in the present. And in the experience, being the spectator and the student in my family's life, I know that that doesn't make movement, right? That gives you dreams, that gives you goals. But without that action, you're just not going to get anywhere. So I applied myself, understanding that sense of accomplishment that I love so much, that makes me feel so good, right? That would tie me over. But today, in going for a bike ride, oh my goodness, you guys, it was kind of neat, here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where I live, we kind of take after the Norwegians, right? That, and in Switzerland, where they have that healthy living and they have bike trails alongside the road. So it's a safer way so cyclists can be on the road and get to their destinations and not be highly focused on the crazy driver who's not paying attention or didn't get enough sleep last night. And, we know we can be as safe as we possibly can, even as drivers. But we're watching the other drivers. We have to watch the other drivers at the same time, right? We have to watch for the animals running across the road, the potholes, the trees, the hail, right? We have to watch for these things because these things are out of our control. All we can control are our own actions, our own thoughts, our own emotions. So, as much like I said, that we could have these dreams and goals, and I didn't really stress it yesterday, right? But I was kind of saying, it's important to have dreams and to have goals. But those dreams and goals are not just going to fall in our lap. And if by some fluke, right, that you hit the Lotto 649, which is the big lottery here in Canada, and you hit it, right? Life is going to be so easy for you. And yes, there are going to be lessons in that. But I believe that there are more lessons in the struggles, right? We learn more. We tend to appreciate life more when we put that effort in. But at the same time, saying that, we get one shot at life, don't we? That we have to create the best life for ourselves as we possibly can, because life is what happens while we're making other plans. I know it's a grungy old plaque, right? This plaque has been, well, it was my father's plaque, and when my father passed in 1983, it was one of the few things of his that I took as a memento, and I've been holding on to it ever since. I have to be honest in saying that for the most part, right, it's not really presentable. Look at, it's all stained and grungy and peeling and just just kind of ratty, isn't it? So for the most part, it has been sitting in a cupboard or a file or in a drawer ever since 1983. I didn't actually pull it out uh, until maybe a half a dozen years ago because I really got the message of it. I really understood what my father was saying in this. To me, it didn't really mean anything in 1983. It was just a little memento because my father loved it, right? It was something that it was important to my father. He had it on a nail beside his lazy boy chair, and he would sit in his chair and read his books, right? And it was important for him. And because it was important for him, I wanted to have. I wanted to have it. But to actually understand the emotions and to understand truly what this meant to him, what was the message in that? It wasn't until maybe, I don't know, 2019, maybe, right? Well, maybe a little bit sooner than that. When I started my YouTube channel, I kind of started moving, right? And, it really is important. And today I really gave it some thought because I really have been applying myself in my dreams and in my goals. And even though I do get that joy in accomplishment, this doesn't mean to take myself out of the picture of my life. And I got that loud and clear today when I went for a bike ride and I walked out of the building and I was having conversations with some of the tenants, and you know I just rode my bike down some side streets and on some of these bike trails, and I'm getting rained on, well, like not heavy rain, but it's spitting on me, and I was just like, this is so amazing. Like, this is so amazing that it's 65. No, let's not push it. I'm 64. I'm not going to be 65 for another few months. But, you get the gist of it, that at my age, that I can still be active. And I'm riding down those streets. And you heard me say yesterday, because we were talking about the thunderstorms and the tornadoes yesterday, that here in Winnipeg, we line our boulevards with great big elms. Like, some of these elms are a couple of 100 years old, and they're just beautiful. And so when you drive down some of these residential streets, they actually look like tunnels because the elm trees from both sides of the streets, their branches are touching each other, and so it's like riding my bike down a tunnel of trees. Just absolutely beautiful. I enjoyed my ride so much. But riding down the street and enjoying the little bits of spitting of rain, the breeze on my face, being in my thoughts, enjoying my bike ride, recognizing, oh my goodness, Cindy, you're 65 years old and look at you on your bike, right? You could still give her, of course, right? Not like I used to give her, but I'm giving her and I'm enjoying it, and I'm not looking at it as a chore, or, and I had to go a little bit of a ways. Like I said, today was the longest bike ride that I've had with my new bike, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking down at the street because I'm watching for potholes and pits and concrete rate raising. We live in Winnipeg. Those two extremes in the weather makes it so the asphalt and the concrete expand and retract like constantly. And yeah, we're always working on our infrastructure here in Manitoba because, again, no, that extreme heat does cause havoc on the roads. So I have to watch the road carefully. Otherwise, I don't want to flip the bike and then say no to myself when I do want to go for a bike ride again, being overprotective, right? It's important that we're self parents, that we're parenting ourselves, and to bring things to our attention. But there are lots of things because of our overprotectiveness. We do say no. I don't think so, right? Sit in the house, take it easy, right? Find a lecture, find a thought leader, find a topic out there to delve into, and then feel really good after you, right? Taken it in, you have absorbed it. You go, oh, wow, that was so excellent. But you know what? Going for a bike ride is excellent too. And when I went for a bike ride, guess what I stumbled onto? I'm looking at the ground and I see a little piece of red paper. I recognized it right away. There was no question in my mind. The only question was it real? I jumped off my bike on this little residential street. And guess what I found? I found a $50 bill coming at the most opportune time. It just brightened my whole day right up. That's when it started raining on me. And I just smiling through it. I went, oh my goodness, how often do you just find a $50 bill on the sidewalk or on the road? Like, and it made it all through the rainstorm last night because it was soaking wet, right? It still had like tree branch stuff on it and stuff, but I didn't care, right? A $50 bill, and I went score. But I was in this mindset in my mind about how amazing life is, right? That I should be doing this more, and I should be really immersing myself in my life and being out and about and having conversations and enjoying the sun, enjoying the breeze, enjoying going for visits and having experiences and little adventures like I had tonight. Let me come down here. I love old things and antiques. Cindy, you got a gem there and a priceless, timeless gift and memory from your father. Yes, it was. But it spent, like I said, a few decades in a cupboard or a drawer. I never got rid of it, right? Because it was a memento, and I didn't take too many things of my father's. When my father passed away, I took an old lucky sweater that when he went to poker games or to Vegas or something, he always took this gold sweater with him from like the 1950s. It was all covered in little cigarette burns and stuff from when he used to smoke cigarettes. And he smoked 2 packages of cigarettes his entire life. And it had all kinds of little burn holes on it. But it's my favorite color in a mustard color, right? You guys can see I like the oranges and the mustards. I look terrible in yellow, so you'll never see me wearing yellow, right? But I do love the oranges and I do love the mustard colors and the butterscotch and caramel colors. They're my favorites, right? I've been in the khaki greens in the past couple of years. I've been enjoying the greens. But what was I saying there? Something Tammy was saying. Oh, the old things. Yeah. So I took the sweater. I took that plaque. I took a ring of his, and I took a compass that I bought him when I was, I think, 10 years old. We used to collect pop bottles and beer bottles as kids to buy our parents presents, right? And we did really good one year. And we went to the sports shop, and I remember I got my dad a whole bunch of sport things. I got him a Swiss knife, and I got him a compass, and I got him a flaying knife, and he just loved that we were little entrepreneurs as kids. Like we were so creative in how to bring about funds to do things. And usually those funds were for fun, right? It helped to alleviate the pressure of, my dad giving us matinee money or money for clothes or whatever we wanted to do, right? We were kind of brought up in a way that we were generating our own money. I mean, at 10 years old, I was generating my own money because I didn't get paid for babysitting my sisters, but I babysat outside my house. And even though it was only 50 cents or $1 an hour, if you're doing that for 10 hours, if you're doing that a couple of days a week, that's $20. And in the 60s and 70s, $20 was a lot of money, right? Let me have a sip of my juice. But these adventures, because, my dad lived by this motto, life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. That's why it was so important for him to do these adventures with his family. He was always taking us on road trips and taking us fishing and taking us out to the trails, and he'd take me hunting. I never hunted anything. I just kind of sat with him and kept him company while he hunted, right? All silent. Neither of us could talk because he was hunting, right? But I just loved spending time with my father. My father was very creative when all you had was the car and maybe a few dollars for gas, that he could create these adventures for the family, right? And I remember that, and it was on my mind all day today. And I thought, I have to be able to be creative and make these little adventures for myself, right? Even if it's just going for bike rides and do small things for myself. But I said, once a month we have to do something a little bit larger, like my father did with the Sunday drives or the little fishing trips or going to a park and walking the trails or going hunting or going to the drive-in theater. Like that was the joy in life, especially when life was so miserable, and not just miserable for me, right, in my upbringing, but my father was kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place, you know, and he wanted to bring a joy into the family. And he always had that attitude, that positive attitude. And, in creating his own best life, which he most definitely did, right? He would, right? I would never have begrudged my dad and said, no, you can't leave me at home with that woman. Like, I would never have done that, right? Because he had a serious illness that was supposed to be taking him out. He added an extra 25 years to his life than what he thought he was going to be able to get to have. That he thought he was going to be able to get to have. But, you know, it was in enjoying the moment, in making sure that he filled his life up with fun things, things that made him smile, things that made his family have memories of him when he wasn't going to be around. I mean, my father woke up every single day not knowing for 25 years, right? Can you imagine having a death sentence and getting an extra 25 years? But he woke up every single morning knowing that today could be the very last day of his life. So I kind of said to myself, right, promising myself that once a month, whether I can afford it or not, in that little drummer girl, drummer boy kind of attitude, I can be creative and I can make my own adventures. I make my little small adventures in my walks and in my visits and in my conversations and, in taking the long way around to get to places, that I am creative that way. But those aren't the adventures in my life that when I'm 80 years old and rocking in my rocking chair, that I'm going to look back and go, oh my goodness, I remember that day I went to the grocery store and I walked over the bridge and fed the ducks. No, I'm not. I want to remember items like my wedding, right? The day I graduated high school, you know, my sister's weddings, all my camping trips, all my urban explores. And I'm so grateful that Tammy comes in and lets me know which one she's watching now. And she comes in with something that I filmed like 10 years ago and I barely remember. And then I see the thumbnail and go, oh my goodness, I got to go in and watch that video again. That was such an amazing day, right? And yes, I might not be able to do seminars and workshops. They're a little expensive in the moment, right? It doesn't mean I'm stopping the goals and the dreams. I'm just adding to the plate, is what I'm doing. And I'm making sure that even though I'm chasing my goals and dreams, I might not ever accomplish, right? It is in the chasing, it is in the pursuit of creating my dreams and setting my goals, that is life, right? And I'm enjoying the landscapes and the adventures, but I'm not making those memories, right? I'm not going to be 80 years old rocking in my rocking chair going, oh my goodness, I remember that lecture from Sam Vatkin talking about borderlines and narcissist partnerships. And I'm just like, right? No, I'm not going to be doing that, right? So it's important for me that I remember to treat myself well, not to feel bad, right? About saying yes to myself. Cindy, get off the couch. It's time for you to go for a walk. And I do that all the time. But I do that when I've had it up to here. But why can't I schedule it in? Right? So that's what I'm kind of doing. I've got 2 events that I'm going to do for the next 2 months. They're not going to cost me a lot of money, right? Me and my sister are going to go see a movie. Still, Steven Spielberg has made a new movie. It's being released on June 28th. It is called Dog. I can't remember the name. Dog something. Dog Days. Um, It's a new movie. Oh my goodness. Did I write it down? I know I was showing my sister the preview of it when I got to her house, and I says, "Oh my goodness." When I saw the preview of this, I said, "This is the movie." I'll never find it with all the notes that I've made here. Um, yeah, I'll never find it. It's going to drive me crazy now, right? But it's a new still Steven Spielberg movie. It's called Dog Days. Don't know, but it's a disaster movie, right? You guys know I like the crazy weather, but disaster movies have always been something that in our family, at the very least, we have partaked in, right? I remember my one of my first movies being Towering Inferno, and then Earthquake, and then, Day After Tomorrow. Now I'm a little bit softer in that. Dog Stars. Yes, I think it was called Dog Stars. Dog Stars. Thank you. Tammy, I appreciate that you went in to check check on that for me. Yeah, so it's coming out on June 28th, and me and my sister is going to go to a movie. I haven't been to a movie in a very long time, and I'm going to have an outing, right? I'm going to have an outing. I'm going to go see this Dog Stars movie. And it was supposed to be an absolutely an amazing book. Yeah, it was an amazing book. And I don't know the last time when Steven Spielberg did a movie. A long time ago, for sure. I was very surprised to hear that he was the director or producer of this movie. But if he's got his hands in the movie, you know it's going to be good. The movie's about a virus wiping out the movie, and there's just small pockets of survivors in the world, right? And it's about them surviving and finding a way of moving forward. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to have a little adventure. And that's not going to cost much, $50. Next month, my sister and brother-in-law, they go to a farm and they raise money for cancer research, but they have a lot of big bands come out and they spend the whole weekend, and it's a small festival that they have out on this gentleman's farm. And he's passed away now, but they still annually do this pig roast, and they build a big stage, and they people camp out in their fields and stuff. And I'm going, it's only $25 a ticket, and then I think they take some kind of collections also at the farm. And so they're raising a little bit of money, and it's going to be a little camping weekend. So I'm going to go with my sister. I didn't tell them yet that I'm tagging along with them. I didn't tell them yet. So I don't think they'll mind. They would have offered anyway. I was going to go last year, but because there was so much humidity in the air, I couldn't leave my cat home on the weekend in the middle of summer. It's just too hot. And my air conditioner shuts off when the water container hits a certain level. And so she would have gone, well, at least 36 hours without any air conditioning, and that's kind of dangerous for her. So I didn't go on the trip last year. Every year I say I'm going to go, but I have my own big trip that I do in September, right? But life is what happens to us while we're making other plans. We make our plans, we set our goals. We don't give up on our dreams. But we have to remember, right? This is our life, right? This is our life. We shouldn't be the slave drivers in our own life, that we should be creating joy and having adventures, right? And just being able to appreciate that we're here, right? Not to be sitting indoors all summer, applying yourself and feeling joy for momentarily because you got something, but that thing that you got is not what's going to tie you over when you're not able to move, when you are truly stuck in your home in a wheelchair, or not being able to walk around because you have arthritis or have other things that make it so that you're right. We all get old, don't we? I'm grateful for my good health. But, right, good health doesn't last well into your hundreds, does it? Right? So I understand that there will be times where age will catch up to me. And when it does, I want to be sitting out on my porch. I want to be sitting in a rocker, or sitting on my steps, or sitting out in the backyard. Or if I can't do that, then I'll sit at my kitchen table with my window open, and I'll reminisce about all the amazing little adventures that I had in my life, right? We talked about it last week. That truly, I think that I could be that person in this moment, look back at my life and, right, be content and be happy for all the adventures that I have had, knowing that, they're unique to me, and very few people would have had or wanted to have those experiences that I had. But because my life has changed and that I am being a little bit more goal oriented, that doesn't mean stop enjoying life, right? To make sure that I'm creating the best life for myself as I possibly can. Not creating for the future, but creating right now. How important is it? I tell you, Sprite should come out and do a partnership with Great Welch's grape juice and make grape Sprite. Oh my goodness, right? And also, it has that little bit healthier aspect for it, right? Because, grapes are an antioxidant. Plus, it's making something that is really refreshing and something that they can market, right? Put out some new commercials out there. And if they can do that with Welch's grapefruit juice, what other products are out there that they could partner with and create, you know, new sodas, right? New drinks out there. There's a lot of them, right? There's a lot of them. I had pineapple pineapple soda, and it's a pretty new product on the shelf here, but I've really been enjoying it, except it's really sweet. But I guess if it's really sweet, I could do the same thing and use the diet soda and just mix it a little bit, right? I just didn't like the richness. I like the flavor, I like the refreshness of it, but I'm not looking to add more sugar into my system. So that's what I wanted to say. But pretty cool. I found $50 today, right? A $50 bill. Every once in a while, you'll find a quarter or loonie, which is our $1 coins, right? I used to find the odd $5 bill, right? I remember finding a $20 bill when I most needed it one time, and that was pretty cool. But today, that $50 bill, and I knew what it was right away. But sometimes you guys know people make those phony bills and then they fold them in half just to trick people to get off their bikes and go pick it up. But when I picked it up, I went, oh, it's a $50 bill. How cool is this? Right? And if I hadn't gone for a bike ride, if I hadn't decided, I could have gotten on a bus, right? I could have gotten on a bus and gotten to my sister's in half an hour easily. But no, I wanted that that fresh air. I wanted to appreciate my bike and I wanted to appreciate living, and it was the kind of topic on my mind. And then, when I found the $50 bill, that was just kind of the nail in the idea of going, okay, Cindy, right? We're going to add some more joy into our lives. And then first thing that goes through your mind, but how are you going to do that? You're not a rich person. No, but I'm a creative person, right? I'm a creative person, and things don't have to be super expensive to be super amazing and super enjoyable. So, yeah, for other people to keep that in mind, I know that, lots of people say no to themselves. I'm not the only person that says apply yourself, right? You're going to feel good about this. Work yourself to the bone. And then, you wonder why 30 old men are broken old men by the time they're 30 because they work themselves to the bone, right? You know, and this idea of my dad living for the moment, right? Never really saving money unless it was for a new down payment on a house, that he lived for a moment. And yes, he was frivolous. And yes, you know, by him being that example in my life, it was kind of something I picked up in my own life. But you know what? I have to say, in selfishness, that I appreciate. It's not that I didn't work hard. I just didn't work hard for the man, right? I just didn't give and hand my life off and not leave anything for myself. I've never been that person, right? And I think sometimes that's why I was invited to this party, because I am somebody who appreciates the gift of life, right? And it's not like life was perfect. It was not like life didn't have its hiccups and wrenches thrown into the engine. It certainly did, but it does for everybody. And it's in the struggles that we get to appreciate life, that we get to make that movement, that we get to have. They call them life lessons for a reason, don't they? Okay, we're going to grab a card here. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of emphasize that a little bit because it was a topic of mine today, and it was a realization, that I probably could have realized a little bit sooner than I did. And I took that to note too, because I said, but if I had done that, oh my goodness, I would have missed this lesson and I wouldn't have learned this. Well, sometimes in the patterning of life, things come across your path again. It might not look the same way, it might not come from the same source, but it might come across your path again. We can't worry about what we're going to miss, because if we're going to worry what we're going to miss, then we're going to miss, aren't we? Okay. Yes, Cindy, you should get a hold of Sprite and tell them to suggest it. That is real cool, Cindy. I'm very happy that you found that $50 bill. For lots of people, that's just pocket change, right? And it really is. It was just the fact of how it came about, when I was on my bike ride and how it was in my mind in the moment, and the topic of discussion I was having with myself, that it was just the confirmation that, yes, Cindy, right? Things like this happen. Unless I'm out in the world, unless I'm participating in my life, those opportunities, those miracles, those gifts are going to have a hard time coming across my path, especially if I'm just sitting here at the desk, right? Okay, you guys. Uh, thank you. I appreciate that, Tammy. But it's important for all of us to remember, right? You get one shot at this, right? And we are the examples for the people in our family, our friends, our neighbors, our community. And it's important that, that when we wonder, how do we give back to the world? You give back to the world by showing the people around you how wonderful a world you actually live in, right? That there is joy in the misery, there is dancing in the rain, there is whistling while you work. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. That's what life is, and there's lessons in that. Okay, you guys, here we go. And Tammy says, and the powerful word for tonight on Wednesday is. Here we go. Might be pertinent to the conversation, it might not. But the word we have today, acceptance, is being okay in not having a say. And it's the first thing that comes into my mind, right? That, lots of times we always feel like, I show up here, Monday to Friday, and then I have a Sunday show. Maybe that's the idea, that maybe I could cut back in my lives. I don't know. I'm pretty consistent, and I think I would take a little bit of emotional hit, maybe my system hit, because this is part of my coping mechanisms. But the idea is to not let things have a total control over your life. And you know what? A lot of these conversations I have are conversations that lots of people have. Lots of people do them a whole lot better than I do. I do them in my own way. I do them in my own way, right? Acceptance is being okay in not having a say, right? To live your life by the moment, maybe by what my way my father lived, in living for the moment, not worrying about the future, not being so steadfast sometimes in those goals and those dreams. I don't know. I'm pretty consistent in that patterning for myself, and the way that I feel when I absorb, when I get something, when I know this is something that's going to be of value, if not for me, then for somebody else. And obviously, right, it's going to be of value to me, because if it's not of value to me, I'm not going to shoot it out there, am I? But it's okay that I'm not doing it perfectly, that I'm not that college degree, right? I have a life degree. I have a life degree. I'm that example for others that it can be done, because those experiences are in our own existence. And if we give our permission to live our best lives, to create the best life for ourselves as we possibly can, understanding that life is what happens to us while we're making other plans, right? It's amazing to understand that we don't have to be steadfast, that we don't always have to be perfect in being a voice for it. Maybe all we need to be is that example, that it's evidence, that permission for somebody else, that they can go off and do it too. Ah. I tied it in there, you guys. I tied it in there. Oh, you guys. It was a great day today. It was a day full of lessons, but it was a day full of lessons in my experience, and not necessarily in sitting in somebody else's lecture or somebody else's lesson, right? Somebody else's conversation, being the student and the spectator, that I could be the participant. And it's important that we are a participant in our own lives. Oh my goodness. And that life degree, Cindy, is just as important, Cindy, than a college degree or any other certificates. 100%, sometimes even more, right? Yeah. You guys, thank you so much for popping in. Thank you, Tammy, for your contribution. As usual, for those of you who pop in later, I see you in my analytics. I appreciate that you pop in and visit me, right, when you have a free moment, because that time is your time, and you can decide where that time is divvied out to. So I just want to show a little bit of gratefulness that you spend a little time with me. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.